When he took the job over 4 years ago, Staffan de Mistura described it as almost mission impossible. Now, after 7 years of war, with over 12 million people displaced from their homes in Syria and over 500,000 killed, he told the Security Council he was stepping down, with a peace deal far from sight.
Let me also give you some heads up, if I may. I will myself be moving on as of the last week of November.
Mr. de Mistura tried everything from local truces to meetings of key international players. In 2016, he managed to get Syrian government representatives to Geneva to meet with a delegation that for the first time represented many of the opposition elements, including key fighting groups. This promising opportunity stopped in its tracks by military action during the talks by Syria and its Russian ally.
I've therefore taken this decision to bring a temporary pause. Temporary pause. This is not the end, and it's not the failure of the talks.
Haven't they basically bombed your talks?
I am not referring to military activities.
It was Russian air power and Iranian forces on the ground that changed the balance of power. The Russians then began too, pushing talks first in Astana, then in Sochi, as a rival to Mr. de Mistura's Geneva process. In over 4 years, at press conferences and in interviews, there seemed to be one thing that was your mantra: there is no military solution. And yet in that time, we've seen starvation used as a weapon, we've seen repression, including torture, we've seen aerial bombardment, including barrel bombs, we've seen the repeated use of chemical weapons. The Syrian government clearly didn't believe you, and it now controls most of the country. So it did have a military solution, didn't it?
You see, I work for the UN, and I've been working for the UN now 48 years in 22 wars or missions in conflict area. I've learned one thing, and I know the Secretary General feels very strongly like this. What matters is winning the peace.
Mr. de Mistura isn't finishing quite yet. He's making a last trip to Damascus next week to persuade the Syrian government to accept a finalised list for a constitutional committee. They've been dragging their heels on that for 9 months. It's unlikely his decision to quit will give him any more leverage. James Bayes, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.